Hello, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining the UpTide Nonprofit Accelerator info session. Welcome. Please mute yourselves upon entry. We will have a Q&A at the end of the program, an opportunity for you to unmute and ask your questions, but let's keep us all muted to minimize the background noise as you all join. So we are so excited to kick off our first info session for the UpTide Nonprofit Accelerator today. I have had the privilege of speaking to many of you on information phone calls, and I am so impressed by the creative and innovative ways you all are supporting the communities that you serve. On our agenda today, you'll have an opportunity to meet the team. You'll be able to meet 92NY and Seed Spot. We'll talk about the UpTide Nonprofit Accelerator in detail and what the program entails. We'll talk about the facilitation style and how you'll be learning throughout this program. We'll talk about qualifications, application, and more. And like I mentioned before, there will be an opportunity to ask your burning questions. So stay tuned, hold those questions. Feel free to drop them in the chat so that you don't forget them during this conversation, and we will get to them during the Q&A. But first, we'd love the opportunity to get to know you all. We'd love to activate the chat, get you all typing in the chat your name, where you are from, and what community you serve. Again, let's activate that chat. Let's get everyone engaged. Type in the chat your name, where you are from, and what community you serve. Now to connect with us, I'll pass it off to Julia.
Thanks, Miranda. Hi, everyone. I'm Julia Rosenblum. I am Director of Strategy in the Office of Strategic Planning at 92NY. A little bit about myself is that I, as director, I aim to bring strategic rigor and share best practices within and across our innovative programs, including this one. My specialty is in asking lots of questions, and I believe very passionately in the power of lifelong learning. So this innovative program is right up my alley. Prior to 92NY, I have worked at various nonprofits, social enterprises, and for-profit enterprises doing strategy, operations planning, and process improvement. I have 13 years of experience in this space. I received my MBA from Columbia Business School and my BA from Wellesley College. I'll pass it off to Harmony.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. I think I saw someone from Harlem in the chat. I'm also based in Harlem. I'm Harmony Coleman. I'm the director of the Belfer Center for Innovation and Social Impact at the 92nd Street Y. In that role, I'll be working very closely with folks who be in this program with UpTide, and also leading our Share America program as well. Before coming to the Y, former classroom educator, community engagement practitioner, what else? Community designer. So really invested in thinking about community building and how to use it as a tool for activating joy and justice, and using that, to really make our collective lives better. So happy to be here. Great to meet you all. And I'll pass it over to Astrid.
Hi all, nice to see everyone in the range of locations we have in the chat. My name is Astrid. I'm a senior program manager with Seed Spot. I run a lot of the programs at Seed Spot, including our flagship Impact Accelerator, open to both for-profit and nonprofit, anyone with that string of social impact attached to it in that early stage venture journey. And prior to this, I have a ton of experience in business funding through loans, running a grant fund, crowdfunding, and delivering sponsorship dollars on the corporate side, and just really familiar with taking your venture to the next level. And I'm excited to see how we do this in the nonprofit space with this program. I'll hand it to Miranda.
Hello, everyone. So good to see some familiar faces and some new faces as you all engage in the chat and join this room. I'm Miranda Williamson. I'm the Director of Recruitment at SeedSpot. What I do is design recruiting and admissions practices that reflect the values and principles of the organizations that we work with. I have a background in conflict resolution and in nonviolent social change in particular, and I am really excited to be supporting a program like this that so closely aligns with my values and my experience as an individual and as a human being at SeedSpot.
I'll take this. So we wanted to give everyone a little bit of background on 92NY since we know that you all come from across the country. Not everyone maybe has heard of 92NY, which is totally fine. So 92NY is a world-class cultural and community center. We are based on the Upper East Side in New York, if you know, you know. And we've been around for over 150 years. We have really specialized in creating impactful programming that builds and sustains communities. We have a ton of programming here. If you look at our website, we have a nursery school, we have parenting center for young kids and their families, all the way up through a senior programming, as well as a world-class talks program where we've had like Oprah and all kinds of really amazing people on our stages. We have dance, we have art classes, we have continuing education online through our roundtable program. So we really do a little bit of everything. But at the heart of it, improving lives and fostering community is really what we focus on. We were founded in 1872 as a home for newly arrived Eastern European Jews, and we established ourselves as a gathering space for New Yorkers of all backgrounds. Today, we endure as a beacon of connection for people across the globe. And hopefully many of you will.
And we are with SeedSpot and excited to partner with 92NY. We are on a mission at SeedSpot to educate, accelerate, and invest in entrepreneurs who are creating solutions to social problems. A little bit about SeedSpot as an organization. We have served over 4,000 entrepreneurs working to address challenges in our world. Collectively, those entrepreneurs have raised over 200 million in capital. And my favorite impact number is they have created over 9,000 jobs. SeedSpot works with mostly underrepresented founders. That includes founders in rural areas and female founders and founders of color. Now, the time you've all been waiting for, we'll talk about the UpTide Nonprofit Accelerator.
Okay, you want to jump to the next slide, Miranda? Okay, awesome. So I will get to all the things on this slide, but I'd like to first take a step back and give you all some context as to what 92NY and Belfer Center hopes to achieve with this accelerator. As I'm sure you all know, across the country, we're seeing the increased atomization of people. There's increased disconnection and disaffiliation that's at the root of many societal challenges. And we at the Belfer Center call this the crisis of community. The Belfer Center's goal is to create the new social infrastructure that communities need to thrive, focused on building stronger, deeper community. And up until now, all of our Belfer Center programs, which we can talk about in a little bit, have been internally generated. And now we want to expand our lens and support impactful ideas that are externally generated, which is where all of you come in. So our goal with this accelerator is to supercharge your programs that are solving the crisis of community. We want to share our resources, our time, our knowledge, our connections, some of our funding, and our reputation with programs that are experts in their specific communities, have a really great idea and a path to scale, and need just some little extra support. So UpTide specifically, like UpTide is the name of the accelerator that's going to help your community building nonprofits with the tools that you need to reach the next level of impact. UpTide specifically is going to support a cohort of 5 nonprofit leaders, so executive director, president, CEO, or other equivalent title at your organization, from diverse community building organizations looking to expand the scale of impact of your programs. So this could be that you're looking to expand into a new geography, a new population, a new type of impact. We're really looking very broadly at that definition of scale and impact. And we're going to be doing this program mostly remotely, which Ashley will talk about in a little bit, so that we can help nonprofits from all over the country. And then there will be 1 week of in-person programming where we bring you to New York and we do a lot of stuff in person to help build connections and build more of that skill set. You go to the next slide, Miranda. Okay. So UpTide is organized by the Belfer Center for Innovation and Social Impact, which is one of the program centers at 92NY. It's specifically 92NY's innovation engine that focuses on building and scaling initiatives that activate ripples of impact around the world. So most of you are probably very familiar with Giving Tuesday. You probably have some form of Giving Tuesday activation at your organization. One of our current flagship programs is Share Our America, which focuses on bridging disconnection through dialogue. We also had the Social Good Summit, and Women in Power is our fellowship for rising leaders that identify as women. Yeah, 150 years, 92NY has focused on community and improved lives in New York and beyond.
All right, y'all. Let's talk a little bit about the programming so you know what you can expect from these virtual sessions. If selected, you are expected to join virtual classes, and they'll typically fall on the second and fourth Thursday of every month, although there will be some holidays and you'll get that program schedule and all that good stuff. And then, as mentioned, in the end, you get a full week of in-person programming in New York City, which is super exciting to continue building the community there. And then when it comes to our style of programming, consider it's going to be tight-knit and hands-on. We select 5 nonprofit leaders, and then you get a handful of team members from both the Seed Spot side and the 92NY side to form UpTide. And that's what our classrooms are going to look like. So it's going to be very personalized, very conversational. We love a cameras on setting, of course, with only 5 people in a Zoom. And we'll have guest speakers and topics that we'll dive into in each class. So some of these topics include leadership principles, communication strategy, development and fundraising. We'll also have opportunities to engage your board, and you'll get a lot of hands-on support with your strategic planning. So again, all of this is meant to be a small group setting with conversation, with engagement. We want you to learn from each other, and we want you to continue building community even in this virtual setting. You're not going to get a lot of lecture from us, and there's no pop quiz setting. This is truly about learning about you, with you. We're providing resources, like I said, guest speakers, and it's all about getting your organization to scale what you already do best. And so it's truly interactive. These learning sessions emphasize a time investment that you're taking and we're taking in this program to put into you as a leader and your organization as a community leader. So I hope you really see it as a unique opportunity. You're going to have so much deep support from UpTide during the course of the programming and beyond the program. And then last but not least, you'll also have access to mentors. And mentors for this program are seasoned mentors, hand-selected, matched to your organization's personal needs and your needs as a leader. And you'll have an opportunity to connect with them all throughout the program. And I hope that gets you a little bit excited about what we have planned for you.
Great. Now, what you all want to know is, who is this program for and do I qualify? I'll pass it off to Harmony.
Yes, thank you, Miranda. So a little bit into the nitty-gritty. I'm sure you all have questions about this. So if something comes up as I'm speaking and voicing the slide over, please drop those questions in the chat. But a little bit more detail here. So this program is for folks who have nonprofit status and are leading a 501c3 tax-exempt organization, US based. So we are limiting this to the US for now. Just so you all know, but maybe in the future, ideally we can expand. But for now, it's for US-based nonprofits. Mission and programs, we really want organizations who are addressing the crisis of community. I'm really thinking about that growing disconnection, disaffiliation that we're experiencing, I think, on a national level for sure, but also globally too, really just navigating a lot of political upheaval in this moment. And so thinking about folks who are addressing them via just collective and communal support. Program impact, directly serving at least 500 people or a meaningful proportion of the population you all serve. Implementing at least one proven intervention with at least 1 year of positive impact data that demonstrates, that you are making the impact that you had hoped to do. Scalability, a replicable model that is making a meaningful impact on the community you all serve. And this last one, I think, is maybe the most important part. Executive director, CEO, or president criteria. So the person who would be in these sessions, being a part of the UpTide Accelerator, does need to be the ED, the CEO, or the president, or an equivalent title at this organization. So that part's very important. We'll talk more about this, but that's those are the big things for now.
And I would like to add one thing that's not on here, and we're not going to be specifically like asking you a question about it. But the goal of any cohort is really for the cohort members to build bonds among themselves and then work together, collaborate, ask each other questions, lean on each other for a lot of support, even past the, 4-ish months that we're going to be working with you. So it's really important that you are someone who is also looking for that type of relationship with other nonprofit leaders. We know that, not everyone has the time to do that right now. So we will not feel any certain way if you decide like, this is just not for me right now. But we really do want people to come here and want to build those bonds, want to build that network and that tight-knit relationship with other nonprofit leaders.
Great. Now, how do you engage in this process? I like to demystify it. I think there is a lot of mystery around application processes, and I just like to remove that mystery and give you all the tools to be successful in this process. So you all are at step number 1. You're attending an info session. This is really important in building a strong application because now you understand your audience much better. You understand who it is who's going to make up the admissions committee, who's going to be reviewing your application. You know a little bit about the program and what you're stepping into. Very important that you understand that fully so that you can construct an application. The application is an online application. It should take about 60 minutes. It is about 30 questions or more. So there are quite a few questions that we have in there. However, we hope that it's not too laborious, that many of the questions you've answered before, or you can pull your mission directly from your website, that you have a strong bio to submit already. So we intentionally did not want to make this an extremely laborious process. And because of that, we hope that you can navigate that application pretty seamlessly. It will be reviewed by an admissions committee. As I said, you've met some of us here on the call today, and we want you to be successful in this process. So the admissions committee is rooting for you. You will be invited to a 30-minute interview if you are moved forward in the process. We will have to make some tough decisions during the admissions process, and oftentimes it in no way reflects your application or the incredible work that you're doing. It's just that we have, as Astrid mentioned, 5 spots. So we will be making some tough decisions during this process, and we will be doing that through your application and your interview and evaluating program fit, because as Julia mentioned, we are building a cohort of individuals who can lean on each other and work with each other throughout this process. If you are admitted into the program, you would receive an acceptance offer. I'd like to share some pitfalls to avoid when building a strong application. I think what I'm about to share today can be used in any application you ever fill out, but it's especially important in this process when we have such limited space available in the program. So do not answer the questions with one sentence. We give you 250 words to answer most questions, and that's about 1,700 characters. Be thorough. Respond to the questions thoroughly. 250 words is succinct, but it is also should be enough space to fully flesh out your answers. Use that space. Remember that grammar is important. If you're moved forward, we often pull information like bios, the mission of your organization. You continue to go back to your application and use information to share with external stakeholders. Make sure that you're putting your best self forward in that process. Some tips for a strong application: be specific. The strongest applications are very specific. If we ask for impact metrics, don't just give a number, explain that number. For example, 500 individuals are served through X, Y, and Z programming. Of those 500, 25 are served in a more in-depth way through this and this process. So be very specific. You can also share information and data that you've collected. If there's still room, share qualitative data that you've served. Of the 500 individuals surveyed, several have said X, Y, and Z has supported their work or has improved their lives in this way. So be very specific. Don't lose sight of the prompts. Respond directly to the questions. You'll be able to navigate backwards and forward through the application, so make sure that you're responding to the prompts and not going beyond a prompt and answering another question within the prompt that you've been given. We love personal stories. We ask for your bio. We want to know what drives you to do this work. It can often be very challenging to work in the nonprofit sector. It can often be very challenging to do mission-driven work. We want to know what connects you to the work that you're doing and your mission. This tip: submit your application early. I often find that there are challenges, perhaps an email, you realize you responded to a question wrong, or you don't receive confirmation email and you want to make sure that your application was submitted. If you wait till the last minute, a lot of other people are waiting for the last minute, and the team here may not be able to respond very quickly to you. If you submit your application a week or two early, that allows for us to work out any issues, any kinks in the process. So I do recommend not waiting till the last minute to submit your application. All right, we're going to move on to our question and answer portion of our conversation. We'll be asking you to use the raise hand feature or to type your questions in the chat for our team. I will say, if you have very specific questions about your work, your organization, and your ability to participate, this may be a better question that we address in a side conversation, and I am always happy to connect with folks and have a very detailed, specific question and answer session with your organization and your specific needs. But this is a great time to ask your broad questions about the program to the team. When we have our first question in the chat: when is the application deadline? It is June 2nd. We'll be sharing deadlines and timelines as well after our Q&A. Are there any questions? Would you like to come off mute and ask? Okay, Alexis says she can't raise her hand. Alexis, you want to come off mute and ask your question? Alexis is having some challenges. We'll go with Caitlin. Caitlin.
Hi, good afternoon. This is really exciting. Caitlin from UNAGB in Boston right now. I'm wondering if you can describe a little bit more of the community you hope to create with the five people that are ultimately chosen. Are you looking for like that group to come together to be focused on the same issue, or are you specifically looking for like a diversity of programs so that, the synergies may not at first be evidence? Or are you looking for like a common moment in the organization that, it's trying to scale or has needs to diversify its fundraising? So I'm wondering how you're imagining this cohort, if you could share a little more.
That's a great question. I love that question. So we are looking for a diversity of issue areas, impact styles, locations, type of community impacted. Um, we we think that sometimes the best like eureka moments happen when it's two seemingly disparate organizations that are like, hey, have you ever thought of this? I can do this thing and you do this thing and like let's, collaborate. We're specifically, since it's only five, we're likely going to steer away from like direct competitor type organizations where it's like, I'm doing this thing in Akron schools and you're also doing this thing in Akron schools. That likely will not happen given the number of applications we're expecting and the number of spots. For this year, we're not focusing on a specific issue area. This is I think someone in the chat asked if this program has been done before. We have not run this program before. This is our inaugural year. So we're looking at the broad span of community building organizations across the US.
Great.
Thank you.
Alexis, would you like to ask your question now?
Yes, and I think I'm off mute, right?
Yes.
Great. And I just saw that somebody said how important is the 500 served. I feel like my question's really similar. I feel confident that we've served 500 people. That sounds right and maybe more. But I do think that just a weakness might be often applications ask for like real specifics, what zip codes and what demographics. And we've tried, there have been times we've only been around as a nonprofit for a year. I was operating as a very mission driven LLC before that, blah, blah, blah. But, at different times during this, say, 3 years, we've gathered some information about various things about the populations that are getting served by our programming. How does that need to be presented? Are testimonials good as data? I know that I sort of perused and saw something about data needing to be presented, and I'd like to get that into an even better place for all grant applications. But I just wondered if you could speak to a good way to present your data about who is being served.
That's a great question. Thank you. I would say the 500 is a approximation. What we're looking more for at this time is that you're reaching enough people that there's proof that your intervention is having the impact that you want it to have. So if you are in a massive city like New York, then 500 should be like a good number. If you're in a much smaller town, then we're steering more towards the other part of that sentence, which is or a significant portion of the population you serve. So I would focus more on are you seeing the impact? Like the program that you're having, is that having the impact you want it to have? And how can you show to us that it's having the impact you want it to have? So if that's a testimonial and saying like, we did a program with half of for some reason I'm picking on Akron today, but like if we're doing a program with half of the students at this one school in Akron and we've seen, this type of impact, here's some quotes from the students and their families. If you can say, we've reached 500 people and this is what we're having, whatever numbers you can get us would be really helpful. But we also do understand that if what you have is testimonials, then that's what you have. And we also do have a section in the application where you can share like non-number things. So any other proud moments you've had that you want us to know, there is a section at the end, I believe, where you can put in like links to videos or just fun things you've done or, all that kind of cool stuff.
Great. And I'm going to tackle a question in the chat. There was a question, is there a copy of the application questions where I can review them? I will include a PDF of the application questions in my follow-up email to all of you all this week. And I will go to Hannah. Hannah, you are on mute.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Miranda. Good to see you. And thank you all for hosting this info session. This seems like a really exciting opportunity. I'm with the development team at Redline and Redline Contemporary Art Center in Denver, Colorado. And I have a question. I have two questions, actually. My first question is about the criteria of wanting to expand programming and expand impact. And I'm wondering, so our nonprofit, it has some goals for its programming, but also it has part of its goals for growth is in the like re-granting and fiscal sponsorship area. And I'm wondering if that still counts for like an area of growth, or if you really want to see like the programming, the growth of programming in the nonprofit.
That's a good question. I would say we're erring on the side of growth of programming or impact for the people that you directly serve more than shifts in financial status.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And then my second question was just about the showcase in New York. Is that something that I'm curious, like a little bit more about that? Like, is it just for the cohort of the five of the, is it just for the UpTide Accelerator? And what is the audience and who's going to be at this showcase?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I believe Miranda's gotten this question from quite a few people who have done their little one-on-ones with her. So I'm happy to answer here. So the showcase is going to be on one of the 92NY stages, which I believe that the room holds like 350 to 400 people. And we will be like selling tickets for $0, but it will be open to the public. So we are going to invite everyone in the Belfer Center and 92NY network, as well as potential funders. So, grant makers that are in New York and like to come to these types of things. It will be open to other networks that we have as well. The showcase is going to be the first portion of it will likely be some kind of discussion about the importance of the type of work we're all doing. And then it will be you having the opportunity to present your nonprofit in front of a panel of probably like 3 to 5 judges. I put in strong quotes. The judges will ask some, little bit of probing questions, but just some questions to get more information. And then, they're not going to give you like, it's not like a Shark Tank where they're saying like, I'm going to buy or not buy type thing. It's very collaborative. After the showcase, that specific portion happens, then there's going to be a networking hour where people who heard something that piqued their interest can talk to you more about your organization and the impact, to try to build a little more of those relationships. There will be grant funding, like prizes for one or two of the cohort members, as well as a people's prize. So we're trying to have it be very interactive for the audience. So they'll get to vote via like a QR code of which organization they feel should receive an additional little, some amount of funding. We are finalizing what those prizes are. So I don't have specific numbers for you yet on those. Other questions? Sorry, did I answer all the questions? Were there more?
The one I think we could get.
No, that was it. Thank you so much.
Great. And there is a question in the chat we'll get to, and then Carla, you're next. Can you elaborate on the full-time ED requirement? For new nonprofits, we may not be in a financial position yet to work on it as a full-time job. But this sounds like a very helpful program in order to grow the nonprofit and be able to work on it full time. I think we can speak to the time commitment of this program as well as the requirement that an ED participate.
Yes. So at this time, we are requiring that the ED be a full-time employee of the organization. That could possibly change in the future for future years, but for the moment, that is the requirement.
Yes. And Julia, will you speak to the time commitment of the program?
Yes. Was it a question specifically? Because I read it as like, what is the time commitment of the ED for the
Yes, I'm
nonprofit?
not
I didn't know if it was
100% certain, so I thought we would cover all our bases.
Okay, there was, I just did want to call out one other thing about the showcase, because I realized I forgot to mention this. So, and someone asked me as a direct message in the chat. So the showcase is, so all the expenses for the showcase are covered by 92NY. So the flights, hotel, and meals for the 5 EDs will be covered. Just wanted to make that clear, so not only is there the $5,000 unrestricted grant, but these costs are also covered by our program. We're not asking you to put any money forth for this.
Great. Carla, we'll get to you now.
Perfect. Hello, I'm Carla McCullough, and I'm the executive director for the Juanita Sims Doty Foundation. And I just want to say I think this is an amazing opportunity and stands to be transformational for not only the nonprofits, but the communities they serve, for those of you who are chosen. But I just wondered if there's any information you could share once you choose the 5 nonprofits, how will those mentors be matched? Is it experience? Is the goals? If there's anything you can share about it, that would be great.
Astrid, would you like to speak a little bit to our mentor network?
Yeah, so until we select the 5 nonprofit leaders, we haven't gone out to search for those mentors yet because it is so personalized. So during your onboarding process, we will ask, for what your growth needs are, whether you need support in development, more support in strategy, more support in communication strategy, and then we go and we seek out those mentors to join the program specific to your needs. And so you get connected early on in the program to your mentors based on your personalized needs there. Did that answer the question?
It does. Perfect. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you, Astrid. I have a question in the chat from Cassie. Are EDs from smaller organizations going to be prioritized?
That's a great question. We are prioritizing EDs and organizations that are from generally under-resourced areas. So to put it bluntly, like New York City, a lot of nonprofit money that's here, a lot of skills that are here, a lot of opportunities exist here. We understand that there's places across the country that don't have the same access to resources that we have, which is why that's one of our main goals of this program, is to share some of these resources with organizations that don't necessarily have easy access to that. And so we will be prioritizing organizations that are not necessarily, so was it the question like smaller? Not necessarily smaller, but from generally have less access to these types of resources.
Great. Excellent. All right. Jenny, would you like to unmute and ask your question?
Yes, I just wanted to elaborate on the ED full-time requirement question. My question was stemming more from, being a new nonprofit, we may not be in that position yet to make it a full-time job. Obviously, that's the dream. So it sounds like maybe this program is more for a little bit more established, where you do have a full-time ED or something like that. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, I would say yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Jenny, I will say, and this might be a question that many of you have, we have intentionally built the application to be a fairly low barrier, meaning that it shouldn't take more than an hour to complete, and it should be a lot of information that you currently have on hand. It could be very good practice to complete an application, even if you think your chances of being selected are low. We run a very relationship-based model at SeedSpot where we work with the individuals in our pipeline to help them find support and guidance that they need, even if that's not with us and even if that's not with the current program they applied to. So it may not hurt to submit your application and to try your luck. And I do encourage anyone who is questioning but still interested in this program to go ahead and give it a try. My next question comes from Full Lake. You can go ahead and unmute and ask your question.
Awesome. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Folake Phillips here. Thank you so much for the work that you guys do and for putting this presentation together. We are based in California, and I have two questions. Will you be prioritizing organizations based in New York over everyone else?
No,
Rainey,
we
would
are
you
not
like to
we are not prioritizing New York. We are the only demographic, not demographic, the only geographic restriction we have is America, United States of America.
Okay, awesome. All right, that's good to know. My second question is, we're a bit of an unusual one at this time. We're coming up to 5 years, and I am the founder and executive director, and I work more than full time as a volunteer. So my question is, since we work, our approach has been, I work more than full time as a volunteer with independent contractors and volunteers, and we want to scale to the next level where I can start to get paid and we can have at least two other people that we hire part-time, even as we still work with the independent contractors that we have because we've grown with them. I'm not sure if this is common, but I wanted to ask because it feels like it's kind of unique to us, and I'm not even American, so there's a lot of things that I do that we do that is not the typical American way. What do I mean? We started off serving not specifically by certain demographics, but by serving individuals, youth, and families, across the intersections of color, class, and culture, and as a way to emphasize our shared humanity, as a way to emphasize the global mindset thinking, as a way to emphasize bringing different people that would not normally be in the same space together to share, learn, and engage with one another, focusing on what has been curated for them. That's how we started. It's not really going to change, but we've, in the past 2 years, added programming that focuses on people of African ancestry, added programming. And that too is continuing to impact people positively and is meeting a unique need as requested by community members from that demographic. So so just to explain some of the uniqueness around the type of nonprofit we are.
Your work sounds very impressive, Fall Lake. Did you have a specific portion of that you'd like us to respond to?
Um, the specific portion, the reason I shared the extra bit is to share why I think this is just my perspective, where I think that we're kind of unique in that sense. The specific question would be, what does it mean if I am full-time, like I said, more than full-time, and I'm a volunteer and we work with independent contractors and volunteer. We don't have workman's compensation. Nobody's being paid as a full-time hire. And I don't know what that means for our application.
I would encourage you to submit your application. You and I can talk and have a conversation, not in this room, that's a little bit more unique to your circumstances and your situation. And we can talk about whether or not this is the right program for you, or if there's another opportunity that would be a good fit. And we can't account for every different type of model that someone's working in our current requirements and structure, but that doesn't mean that there's something out there that that exists and is functioning, and we haven't been able to thoroughly add that into and account for that structure.
Okay. Thank you. So this now leads me to one other question, your feedback. May I go ahead and ask that one question?
I would say there's
Would it be a better
few
question for us
other.
to take to a separate conversation, Fall Lake?
Sorry, say that again.
Would it be a better question for us to take to a separate conversation in another opportunity where we
Okay,
can?
sure. Yeah, if that works for you. Yeah.
Great, wonderful. All right. The next question is from Vicky. To what extent will you focus on sustainability and scalability?
I would say to a high extent. So we'll take scalability first. So it's one of the main, in the is this program for you, the requirements. One of them is specifically about scalability. Is your organization ready to make that next jump in impact and scale? We understand not every organization is in that point, especially we've all been kind of rocked with some of the things that have happened in the nonprofit sphere the last few weeks / months. So we totally understand if you decide like, look, I'm just focused on having the programs and helping the people I'm currently doing, like maybe next year, totally get it. If you are at that point where you feel very comfortable with what you're currently doing and you're like, how do I make that next jump? This is the program for you. I would say sustainability. I'm assuming this is financial sustainability. We love an environmentally sustainable organization. But assuming this is financial sustainability, I would say we are not specifically asking about financial sustainability in the application. We do ask about where your revenue streams come from so that we can have a sense of how much is like earned income versus contributed revenue, so that we are building a cohort that is cohesive. But we don't necessarily need to know that, and it doesn't necessarily matter for the cohort whether all of your donors are $5 givers and you just have a ton of them and that makes it work, versus you have a massive endowment. Fantastic for you. Wish I was you. So I would say like we want you to be sustainable and that you will exist next year, but we don't necessarily have a specific requirement around what that means.
Great. Thank you, Julia. Kimberly, would you like to unmute and ask your question?
My question is, what is the rubric you're going to utilize for the selection of the 5 people for the 5 nonprofits?
Wonderful. I think, Julia, would you like to speak to our rubric and what we're going to look at for the selection criteria?
Sure. So what the areas that we look at are your mission impact. So how closely does your mission align with community building? We understand that as an organization, as a nonprofit organization, everything that nonprofits do has some form of community building aspect to it. But we want specifically community, like the community to be a primary thing that you're measuring rather, or that your impact, like the purpose of your impact versus, a secondary. So a really easy example to pick on is like cancer research. Absolutely important. Their primary goal is not community building. Their primary goal is curing cancer. So that one is one that is not as aligned with this accelerator. So mission impact, your specific connection to the solution. So do you have a lived experience with the community that you are working in, or what makes you the right executive director for that organization and for that issue area? Your team. And this, to one of the questions earlier, this doesn't necessarily mean that your whole team has to be employees. You can say, like, we have this volunteer member who they are our head of HR and they're like fantastic and they're volunteer. We don't actually pay them, but they're amazing. Who is your team? We want to make sure that you have we want to make sure that you are setting yourself up to reach that next level of impact. Program fit, are we the right accelerator for you? We might not be. That's, a real thing that happens a lot of times. Scalability, as we talked about, are you ready to make that next jump? Do you have that desire to do that? And I believe those are the main areas. Miranda, correct me if I'm wrong. And then we will have an interview where we just get a feel for, not really like likability. I don't like that term. I tend to not come off as particularly likable sometimes. Yeah, just, can you speak to your organization's purpose and mission? Are you going to build the type of relationships with your cohort members that we hope that you build? We know that, but between when you submit your application and then when we have the interview, things happen that you want to tell us about. So the interview gives you the opportunity to ask us some direct questions. We can ask you some direct questions about your application that maybe weren't necessarily clear, and you can share all of that fun additional things that might have happened in between.
Great. And I want to emphasize a portion of the conversation that Julia just brought up, is that we are also making sure that this is the right opportunity for you. One reason why I love to have conversations, and this came up in our conversation with Full Lake, perhaps this isn't the best next step for you, but let's explore what is. And we are absolutely looking in your application and in the interview if this is an opportunity where we have the tools and resources to support you appropriately. All right, well, it looks like we're coming to the end of our conversation. I'd love to share some next steps with you all. All right, so what's next? The next steps are to submit your online application. I will send the application link out in my follow-up email along with this recording, as well as a PDF of the questions. Apply by June 2nd. You will receive notifications of next steps by mid-June, whether that next step is that your application will not be moving forward or you will be invited to that 30-minute interview. Our final cohort will be selected by early July. Thank you all for joining us today. I appreciate your time and your energy and look forward to being in touch. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.